Unexpected encounter. The relentless Texas sun beat down on Jake Cooper's weathered face as he surveyed his drought-stricken ranch. Dust devils danced across barren fields that should have been lush with grass for his cattle. Jake wiped sweat from his brow, squinting at the horizon. His instincts, honed by years on the land, told him something was off. A shimmer in the air caught his eye, like heat waves rippling over sun-baked asphalt. But this was different, more intense, almost electric. Jake's horse nickered nervously beneath him. "Easy, girl," he murmured, patting her neck. The shimmer intensified, coalescing into a pulsing orb of light that hurt his eyes to look at directly. With a thunderous crack, the orb exploded outward. Jake's horse reared in panic, nearly throwing him. As he fought to control her, a sleek metallic object burst through the rift in reality, trailing smoke and debris. It careened across the sky, far more graceful than any aircraft Jake had ever seen, before plummeting to Earth several miles away. Jake's heart raced. A plane crash. Some secret military project gone wrong. Whatever it was, someone could be hurt. He spurred his horse towards the impact site, kicking up clouds of dust. As he drew closer, he could see a deep furrow carved into the earth, ending at a crumpled mass of iridescent metal unlike any alloy he'd ever encountered. Approaching cautiously, Jake dismounted and drew his revolver. Steam hissed from the wreckage as it cooled in the arid air. A panel on the craft's side suddenly burst open with a pneumatic whoosh. Jake raised his gun, every muscle tense. A figure stumbled out, collapsing to the ground. Jake's jaw dropped. It was clearly female, but definitely not human. Her skin was a pale lavender, shimmering with an opalescent sheen. Instead of hair, delicate tendrils that looked almost crystalline flowed from her scalp. She wore some kind of form-fitting suit that seemed to shift colors as she moved. The alien's eyes fluttered open, revealing startling silver irises. She focused on Jake and let out a string of musical syllables he couldn't begin to comprehend. Her expression was one of pain and confusion. Jake holstered his gun. Whatever she was clearly injured and in need of help. He approached slowly, hands raised to show he meant no harm. "Easy there," he said softly. "I'm not gonna hurt you. Let's get you patched up." The alien's eyes widened in surprise at his voice. She tried to stand but collapsed with a cry of pain. Jake rushed forward, catching her before she hit the ground. She was surprisingly light in his arms, her skin cool to the touch despite the oppressive heat. He gently lowered her to a sitting position, noticing a nasty gash on her leg oozing silvery blood. Jake pulled a bandana from his pocket and carefully wrapped it around the wound. The alien watched his movements intently, her head tilted in curiosity. "There, that should help stop the bleeding," Jake said. "Now, I don't suppose you understand a word I'm saying, but we need to get you somewhere safe. Can't leave you out here in this heat." The alien's tendrils rippled, and she placed a hand on her chest. "Zara," she said clearly, then pointed at Jake with a questioning look. Jake couldn't help but smile. "Well, you're a quick study. Name's Jake Cooper." He tipped his hat. "Pleasure to meet you, Zara, though I wish it were under better circumstances." Zara's lips curved into what Jake hoped was a smile. She gestured towards her ship, speaking rapidly in her melodious language. Jake shook his head. "Sorry, darling, I can understand. But I reckon you're worried about your ride here. Don't fret, it's pretty remote out this way. We'll come back for it once you're taken care of." He helped Zara to her feet, supporting her weight. His horse snorted and pawed the ground nervously at the alien's approach. "Steady now," Jake soothed. "She ain't gonna hurt you." He turned to Zara. "Think you can manage to ride? It's a fair piece back to the ranch." Zara tilted her head, clearly not understanding. Jake mimed mounting a horse, then pointed to Zara. Her eyes lit up with comprehension, and she nodded eagerly. Jake couldn't help but chuckle at her enthusiasm. "All right then, up you go." He helped her into the saddle, then swung up behind her. Zara leaned back against his chest, her tendrils tickling his chin. Jake tried to ignore how acutely aware he was of her presence as he urged the horse into a trot. As they rode, Jake's mind raced. He had an honest-to-God alien sitting in front of him, headed back to his ranch. What would happen when people found out? Would the government try to take her away? He'd seen enough movies to know that probably wouldn't end well for anyone involved. Zara turned her head, meeting his eyes. There was intelligence there, curiosity, and something else. A spark of mischief that made Jake's heart skip a beat. She gestured to the horse, then to herself, and said something in her language that sounded almost like a challenge. Jake laughed. "Oh, you think you could handle this old girl better than me, do you? Well, I'd like to see that. Once you're healed up, maybe I'll give you a proper riding lesson." Zara's tendrils rippled in what Jake was beginning to recognize as amusement. She leaned back further, relaxing against him. Despite the strangeness of the situation, Jake felt oddly at peace. Whatever came next, he had a feeling life on the ranch was about to get a whole lot more interesting. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in brilliant oranges and purples, Jake and Zara crested a hill overlooking the ranch. The weathered buildings and corrals stood in stark contrast to the sleek alien now sharing his saddle. Two worlds colliding in ways Jake never could have imagined. He reined in the horse, taking a moment to appreciate the view. "Well, Zara," he said softly, "welcome to your temporary home. I can't promise it'll be as exciting as wherever you came from, but I'll do my best to make you comfortable." Zara's silver eyes widened as she took in the scene. She pointed to the ranch, then to Jake, her expression questioning. Jake nodded. "That's right, it's mine. Been in the family for generations." He paused, a lump forming in his throat. "Just me now, though." Something in his tone must have conveyed his meaning, because Zara placed a comforting hand on his arm. The gesture of empathy, crossing the barriers of species and language, touched Jake deeply. He cleared his throat. "Come on, let's get you inside and see about that leg." As they approached the ranch house, dogs began to bark. Jake tensed, worried about how they'd react to Zara. To his surprise, the alien let out a series of high-pitched whistles. The dogs immediately fell silent, then began wagging their tails furiously as Jake helped Zara dismount. "Well, I'll be damned," Jake muttered. "Looks like you've got a way with animals." Zara simply smiled, reaching down to scratch behind the ears of the nearest dog, who leaned into her touch with obvious pleasure. Jake led her into the house, flicking on lights as they went. Zara's eyes darted everywhere, taking in the rustic furnishings with obvious fascination. She ran her fingers over the rough-hewn wooden table, the worn leather of the couch, as if trying to memorize every texture. "Let's get that leg looked at properly," Jake said, guiding her to sit. He fetched his first aid kit and knelt beside her. As he unwrapped the makeshift bandage, he was stunned to see the wound had already begun to close. The edges were knitting together before his eyes, far faster than any human healing he'd ever seen. Zara noticed his surprise and pointed to the wound, then made a wavy motion with a hand. "Fast, healing," Jake ventured. Zara nodded emphatically. "Well, ain't that something," Jake mused. "Reckon that'll come in handy." He cleaned the wound anyway, not wanting to take any chances with alien biology. Zara watched his movements intently, occasionally reaching out to touch the various first aid supplies with curiosity. When Jake finished, she placed her hand over his and spoke softly in her language. Though he couldn't understand the words, the gratitude in her tone was unmistakable. "You're welcome," Jake said, feeling a warmth that had nothing to do with the Texas heat. "Now, how about we see about getting you something to eat? No idea what your kind likes, but we'll figure something out." In the kitchen, Jake watched in amusement as Zara explored, opening cabinets and examining their contents with childlike wonder. She seemed particularly fascinated by the refrigerator, letting out a delighted trill when she felt the cool air inside. Jake set out an array of foods, figuring it was best to offer options. Zara sniffed at each item cautiously before tasting. Her reactions ranged from comical disgust at a pickle to near ecstasy over a ripe peach. She devoured 3 more in quick succession, juice dribbling down her chin. "Whoa there, slow down," Jake laughed, handing her a napkin. "Don't want you getting sick on top of everything else." As they ate, Jake found himself studying Zara more closely. Despite her alien features, there was something undeniably beautiful about her. The way her tendrils seemed to glow softly in the low light, the graceful way she moved, the intelligence and humor sparkling in those silver eyes. He caught himself staring and quickly looked away, feeling heat rise to his cheeks. After the meal, Jake showed Zara to the guest room. She explored every inch, marveling at the patchwork quilt and the old rocking chair by the window. When Jake minded sleeping, she nodded in understanding and sank onto the bed with a contented sigh. "Well, I'll let you get some rest," Jake said, backing towards the door. "If you need anything, I'm just down the hall." He hesitated, then added, "I'm real glad I found you, Zara. I don't know why you're here or what's gonna happen next, but I want you to know you're safe with me." Zara stood and crossed to him. She placed a hand over her heart, then reached out to touch Jake's chest lightly. The gesture needed no translation. Jake swallowed hard, nodding. "Good night, Zara," he said softly, closing the door behind him. Back in his own room, Jake sat heavily on the edge of his bed, his mind reeling. In the space of a day, his entire world had been turned upside down. He had an alien sleeping down the hall, for crying out loud. Part of him wondered if he'd wake up tomorrow to find it had all been some heat-induced hallucination. But as he drifted off to sleep, Jake found himself hoping it wasn't a dream. For the first time in years, he felt a spark of excitement about what the future might hold. Whatever challenges lay ahead, he was ready to face them with a mysterious alien cowgirl by his side. Cosmic rodeo dawn broke over the Cooper Ranch, painting the sky in hues of lavender and gold. Jake stared, momentarily disoriented. Had yesterday been a dream? The sound of melodious alien speech drifting through his window answered that question. He hurried to dress, eager to see what new adventures awaited. He found Zara in the kitchen, surrounded by a whirlwind of floating utensils and ingredients. Her crystalline tendrils pulsed with soft light as she orchestrated the chaos with graceful gestures. Jake's jaw dropped. "Well, I'll be..." Zara turned, beaming at him. "Jake, good morning." Her accent was thick but unmistakable. She'd learned to speak overnight. "You can talk now," Jake marveled. Zara nodded enthusiastically. "My species, quick learners, absorb language during sleep." She gestured to the floating pancake batter. "I watch your cooking shows on Magic Box. Very educational." Jake chuckled, both amazed and slightly unnerved. "That's mighty impressive, Zara. Though I reckon we ought to keep your abilities under wraps when folks are around. Don't want to cause a panic." Zara's face fell slightly. Humans, afraid of different. Jake sighed, running a hand through his hair. "Some are, I'm afraid, but not all of us. Give folks time, and they might surprise you." As they sat down to a breakfast of surprisingly delicious alien-made pancakes, Jake broached the subject that had been weighing on his mind. "Zara, not that I'm not enjoying your company, but why are you here? Was your crash an accident or..." Zara's tendrils rippled, a sign Jake was learning indicated deep thought. "Not accident," she said slowly. "I am. Explorer. Scientist. Studying primitive, no developing worlds." She winced apologetically at Jake's raised eyebrow. "Your Earth at crucial point. Great potential, but also great danger." Jake leaned forward, intrigued. "Danger? You mean like climate change, war, that sort of thing?" Zara shook her head. "Bigger. Cosmic." Her silver eyes met Jake's, deadly serious. "Your world on cusp of faster-than-light travel will attract attention. Not all aliens friendly like me." Jake whistled low. "Well, that's a heap of responsibility to drop on a simple rancher." Zara reached across the table, placing her cool hand over Jake's. Not simple, Jake Cooper. You special. That why I reveal myself to you. Humans need preparation for what comes next. You can help. Before Jake could respond, the sound of an approaching truck broke the moment. His eyes widened in alarm. Shoot, that'll be my neighbor Bill. Quick, we need to hide your ship. They rushed outside, Zara using her telekinetic abilities to quickly camouflage her craft with brush and debris. They finished just as Bill's old pickup rattled into view. Bill Hawkins was a craggy-faced man in his 60s, eyes sharp despite his age. He got out of his truck, gaze immediately locking onto Zara. Well now, Jake, who's this lovely lady? Don't recall seeing her around these parts before. Jake's mind raced. This here's our Zara. She's an actress. From one of them science fiction shows. Doing research for a role as a cowgirl. Bill's eyebrows shot up. That's so. Well, ain't that something? Guess that explains the unusual getup. He tipped his hat to Zara. Ma'am, welcome to Texas. Zara bobbed her head in what she hoped was a proper human greeting. Thank you, sir. I am most excited to learn your cowgirl ways. Bill chuckled. Well, you came to the right place. Jake here's one of the best horsemen in the county. He turned back to Jake, his expression growing serious. Speaking of, that's why I'm here. Caught word of some mighty strange goings-on last night. Lights in the sky, explosions. You see anything peculiar? Jake forced a laugh, hoping it didn't sound as nervous as he felt. Can't say I did, Bill. Must have slept right through it. Bill studied him for a long moment, then shrugged. Well, keep your eyes peeled. These days you never know what might drop out of the sky. He climbed back into his truck, calling out the window. You two have fun playing Cowboy and Alien. As the truck disappeared in a cloud of dust, Jake and Zara exchanged relieved looks. That was close, Jake muttered. Too close, Zara agreed. We need plan. I must repair ship, but also learn about humans. Prepare you. Jake nodded slowly, an idea forming. Well, if you're supposed to be researching for a role as a cowgirl, how about we make that our cover? I'll teach you everything I know about ranching, and you can teach me about whatever it is we need to know to face this cosmic danger of yours. Zara's face lit up. Excellent idea. Cultural exchange, most effective way to learn. And so began one of the strangest cattle drives in Texas history. Over the next few weeks, Jake taught Zara the finer points of roping, riding, and wrangling. Her natural grace and ability to communicate with animals made her a quick study, though there were plenty of mishaps along the way. One memorable afternoon found Zara levitating herself onto a particularly ornery bull, much to the astonishment of the rest of the herd. Now, Zara, Jake called out, trying not to laugh, that ain't exactly traditional cowgirl technique. Zara grinned, her tendrils swirling in amusement as she floated above the bewildered bull. But most effective, yes. Perhaps time for new traditions. As they worked, Zara shared knowledge of the cosmos. Jake learned of vast galactic civilizations, of worlds beyond imagination. But he also learned of the dangers lurking in the depths of space empires that saw developing worlds as resources to be exploited or conquered. Your Earth is like, how you say, diamond in the rough, Zara explained one evening as they sat on the porch, watching the stars emerge. Humans have great capacity for love, for innovation, but also for destruction. Jake nodded soberly. Reckon that's true. We've come a long way, but we've still got a heap of problems to sort out. Zara's hand found his, her touch sending a warmth through him that had nothing to do with the balmy Texas night. That's why I have hope for your kind, Jake. You see problems, but also seek solutions. My people, we watch, we study, but we do not often intervene. I begin to think perhaps this is a mistake. Jake squeezed her hand gently. Well, I'm mighty glad you decided to intervene with me, Zara. I can't say I understand everything you've told me about what's coming, but I aim to face it head-on. Zara's silver eyes shimmered in the starlight. Together, Jake Cooper, we face it together. As the weeks passed, Jake found himself falling for the alien Cowgirl in ways he never could have imagined. Her curiosity, her kindness, the way she saw beauty in the simplest things, it all called to something deep within him. But their idyllic time on the ranch couldn't last forever. One night, as a meteor shower painted the sky with streaks of light, Zara's expression turned grave. "Jake," she said softly, "those are not meteors. My people come. The time for preparation is over. Now, we must act." Jake stood, squaring his shoulders. Whatever was coming, he was ready to face it. With Zara by his side, he felt like they could take on the whole universe. Little did he know, that's exactly what they'd have to do. Galactic Hoedown. The Texas night exploded with light as Zara's people arrived. Sleek ships, shimmering like liquid starlight, descended from the heavens. Jake stood transfixed, his hand instinctively finding Zara's. "Holy guacamole," he breathed. "I reckon the neighborhood barbecue's about to get a whole lot more interesting." Zara's tendrils pulsed with nervous energy. "Jake, I must warn you. My people, the Zoraxians, they are complicated." Before Jake could respond, a beam of iridescent energy shot down from the lead ship. When it faded, 3 figures stood before them. Their appearance was similar to Zara's, but their expressions were far less friendly. The tallest Zoraxian, clearly the leader, fixed Jake with a piercing stare. "So," he said, his voice resonating with otherworldly harmonics, "this is the human you've chosen as your assistant, Zara." Zara stepped forward, her chin raised defiantly. "Not assistant, Zorthal. Partner." Zorthal's tendrils writhed in what Jake assumed was disgust. Impossible. These primitives are barely out of their stone age. They have no place in galactic affairs. Jake bristled. "Now hold on just a cotton-picking minute. We might not have fancy spaceships, but we've come a long way. Heck, we've even got indoor plumbing now." The other Zoraxians exchanged confused looks. Zorthal waved a dismissive hand. "Irrelevant. Zara, you violated protocol. Humans are not ready for first contact. We must erase their memories and leave." "No." Zara's outburst surprised everyone. "I've seen their potential. Jake has shown me the best of humanity. They deserve a chance." Zorthal's eyes narrowed. "You've become emotionally compromised, Zara. This human has clouded your judgment." Jake stepped forward, placing himself between Zara and her people. "Now listen here, or whatever. I don't pretend to understand all this space politics hootenanny, but I know right from wrong. And treating folks like they're less than you just 'cause they're different, that ain't right." A tense silence fell over the group. Jake could feel the weight of alien gazes upon him, judging, assessing. He straightened his hat and met their stares head-on. Suddenly, a new voice cut through the night. "Well, I'll be damned. Looks like the rodeo came early this year." Everyone turned to see Bill Hawkins step out from behind a nearby oak tree, rifle in hand. Jake's heart sank. "Bill, this ain't what it looks like." Bill chuckled, lowering his weapon. "Oh, I reckon it's exactly what it looks like. Aliens done come to visit, and our boy Jake's gone and fallen for one of 'em." Zorthal's tendrils flared in alarm. "Another human. We must contain this immediately." But Bill just grinned, revealing a mouth full of surprisingly sharp teeth. "Oh, I wouldn't worry about that, friend. See, some of us have been keeping an eye on this little blue marble for a good long while." Before their astonished eyes, Bill's form shimmered and changed. His weathered human exterior melted away, replaced by a towering reptilian figure with iridescent scales and multifaceted eyes. Jake's jaw dropped. "Bill, you're..." "The name's actually Zixvok," the creature rumbled. "Galactic peacekeeper at your service. Been living as Bill for the past 60 years, making sure Earth stays off the radar of less friendly species." Zorthal sputtered in indignation. "This is outrageous. The peacekeepers have no jurisdiction here." Zixvok's multifaceted eyes glittered with amusement. "Oh, but we do. You see, Earth is what we call a cosmic crossroads. More alien species have visited this little planet than you can shake a stick at. Heck, where do you think humans got the idea for cowboy hats? He tipped his own hat with a clawed hand. Jake's mind reeled. So, all this time... Yep, Zixvok nodded. Been watching you grow up, Jake. Knew you had the right stuff. That's why I made sure Zara's ship crashed near your ranch. Called it a cosmic blind date. Zara's tendrils curled in surprise. You orchestrated our meeting. But why? Zixvok's expression turned serious. Because the galaxy's changing, folks. Old alliances are breaking down. We need new blood, new ideas. And humans, they've got a knack for thinking outside the box that could just save us all. Zorthal scoffed. Preposterous. These primitives could never. Oh, put a cork in it, you overgrown glow stick. Jake interrupted, surprising himself with his boldness. Way I see it, you folks have been puttering around the galaxy so long, you've forgotten how to adapt. Maybe it's time for some good old-fashioned human ingenuity. A tense silence fell over the group. Jake could practically see the gears turning in Zorthal's alien mind. Finally, the Zoraxian leader spoke. Perhaps we have been hasty in our judgment. Zara's report on human potential is intriguing. Zixvok clapped Jake on the back with a scaled hand. That's the spirit. Now, how about we all mosey on down to my place? I've got a still out back that makes moonshine that'll curl the tendrils right off your head. As the unlikely group made their way across the moonlit pasture, Jake fell into step beside Zara. So, he said, a smile tugging at his lips, still think I can handle riding you like one of my stallions. Zara's silver eyes sparkled with mischief. Oh, Jake Cooper, you have no idea what you're in for. And so, under a Texas sky alive with starships, a new chapter in galactic history began. Humans, Zoraxians, and who knew what other cosmic cowboys, all learning to two-step together in the great cosmic dance. Jake grinned, tipping his hat to the stars. Life on the ranch was about to get a whole lot more interesting. Cosmic Rodeo Showdown. The Texas dawn broke over a scene straight out of a fever dream. Zoraxian ships hovered above fields where cattle grazed, unperturbed. Jake stood on his porch, sipping coffee and watching Zara teach a group of alien diplomats how to lasso. Remember y'all, Zara called out, her accent a charming mix of alien lilt and Texas twang. It's all in the wrist. Jake chuckled, shaking his head. If someone had told him a month ago that he'd be hosting an intergalactic peace summit on his ranch, he'd have thought they'd been drinking too much moonshine. Yet here they were. Zixvok, still in his imposing reptilian form, sidled up next to Jake. Quite a shindig we've got going on here, eh, partner? Jake nodded, his expression turning serious. It's something all right, but I can't help feeling like we're sitting ducks out here. The whole universe knows where we are now. Zixvok's multifaceted eyes glittered. Sharp as ever, Jake. You're right to be concerned. Our little poker game here has attracted some unwanted attention. As if on cue, the sky darkened. A massive ship, easily dwarfing the Zoraxian vessels, broke through the clouds. Its surface was a chaotic mess of spikes and protrusions, looking more like a floating junkyard than a spaceship. Well, butter my butt and call me a biscuit, Jake muttered. I'm guessing those ain't friendly folks. Zixvok's scales bristled. Scavengers, galactic pirates. They prey on developing worlds, strip them of resources, and leave them barren. Panic erupted among the assembled aliens. Zoraxian diplomats scrambled for their ships, but energy beams lanced out from the massive vessel, disabling their engines. Zara rushed to Jake's side, her tendrils pulsing with alarm. Jake, we must do something. If the scavengers take Earth, billions will suffer. Jake squared his shoulders, an idea forming. Zixvok, you said humans are good at thinking outside the box, right? Well, I reckon it's time for some down-home Texas ingenuity. He turned to the assembled aliens, his voice ringing out clear and strong. Listen up, y'all. I know you're scared, but we've got something these scavengers don't expect: good old-fashioned teamwork. Now, who's ready for a cosmic rodeo? What followed was perhaps the strangest battle in Earth's history. Jake coordinated a defense that combined alien technology with cowboy tactics. Zoraxian energy lassos corralled scavenger landing parties. Anti-gravity bootstraps let human ranchers ride enemy fighters like bucking broncos. Zara proved to be a natural leader, her ability to communicate with animals extending to the scavengers' biomechanical mounts. She turned their own beasts against them in a spectacular display of alien horse whispering. The piece de resistance came when Jake, astride his trusty horse and armed with a jury-rigged plasma lasso, rode a commandeered scavenger skiff right up to their mothership. With a whoop and a holler that echoed across the cosmos, he lassoed their main power coupling and yanked it free. The massive ship sputtered and died, drifting harmlessly into orbit as Jake rode his impossible steed back to Earth, silhouetted against the setting sun like some cosmic cowboy of legend. As the dust settled and the remaining scavengers fled, a cheer went up from the assembled beings. Aliens of a dozen species mobbed Jake, clapping him on the back or equivalent appendages and praising his bravery. Zixvok approached, his reptilian features set in an expression of awe. By the cosmic cowpoke, Jake, I've never seen anything like that in all my centuries. You've just changed the course of galactic history. Jake blushed, tipping his hat. Aw shucks, I just did what needed doing. Though I gotta say, I never thought I'd be using my rodeo skills to save the planet. Zara rushed into his arms, her tendrils glowing with joy and pride. Jake Cooper, you are most extraordinary human. You have united beings from across galaxy. Shown us all that cooperation is more powerful than advanced technology. As the group celebrated their victory, a shimmering portal opened nearby. From it emerged a being of pure energy, its form constantly shifting and changing. Greetings, beings of Earth and beyond, it intoned, its voice resonating on multiple frequencies. I am an emissary of the Cosmic Council. We have observed your valiant defense and innovative tactics. It is clear that Earth is ready to join the galactic community. Jake stepped forward, still dusty from battle but standing tall. Now hold on just a minute there, Sparky. We're mighty flattered, but Earth's got a lot of growing to do before we're ready for all this. He gestured to the assembled alien diplomats and scattered scavenger tech. The being seemed to smile, though it was hard to tell with its ever-shifting form. Wisdom as well as bravery. You continue to impress, Jake Cooper. Very well. Earth will remain protected, a neutral ground where beings from across the cosmos can come to learn, to grow, and perhaps to experience your rodeos. As the emissary faded away, Jake turned to face the expectant crowd. Humans, Zoraxians, and a menagerie of alien species all looked to him for guidance. He cleared his throat. Well, folks, looks like Cooper Ranch just got a whole lot bigger. We've got a heap of work ahead of us, teaching each other and learning to get along. But if we can wrangle scavengers, we can handle anything. Now, he's up for some barbecue. I reckon we've earned it. Cheers erupted as the unlikely family made their way back to the ranch house. Jake felt Zara's hand slip into his, and he smiled. The road ahead would be challenging, but with her by his side and this cosmic community at his back, he was ready to face whatever the universe threw their way. As the sun set on this new frontier, Jake couldn't help but grin. Life as a cosmic cowboy was going to be one heck of a ride. Stardust Saloon. The neon sign flickered to life, casting a multicolored glow across the dusty Texas landscape. Stardust Saloon, it proclaimed in both English and a dozen alien scripts. Jake Cooper stood back, admiring his handiwork with a satisfied nod. Well, Zara, he said, turning to the alien cowgirl by his side, reckon we're open for business. Zara's tendrils shimmered with excitement. It is beautiful, Jake. A true beacon of intergalactic harmony. In the months following the scavenger attack, Cougar Ranch had undergone a transformation that would have seemed impossible a year ago. The old barn had been converted into a state-of-the-art spaceport, capable of handling everything from sleek Xeraxian cruisers to lumbering freighters from the galactic core. But the crown jewel of this cosmic frontier town was the Stardust Saloon. Part honky-tonk, part alien cultural center, it was unlike anything else in the known universe. As they stepped inside, Jake marveled at the eclectic mix of decor. Traditional cowboy memorabilia shared wall space with holographic star charts and artifacts from 100 alien worlds. The bar itself was a masterpiece of engineering, capable of dispensing everything from good old Texas bourbon to fizzing Andromeda Nebula juice. "Howdy, folks," called out a familiar reptilian voice. Zixvok, still in his Bill disguise, was behind the bar, polishing glasses with his many-fingered hands. "Ready for our grand opening." Before Jake could respond, the saloon doors swung open. A motley crew of humans and aliens poured in, their excited chatter filling the air in a dozen languages. "Well, I'll be," Jake chuckled. "Looks like news travels fast, even in deep space." As the night wore on, the Stardust Saloon proved to be everything Jake had hoped for and more. Xeraxian diplomats line-danced with human ranchers. A group of gaseous beings from the Crap Nebula engaged in a heated game of poker, their cards hovering in midair. At the bar, a burly Arcturian arm-wrestled a cowboy while debating the finer points of cattle ranching. Jake found himself at the center of it all, playing the role of cosmic bartender and peacekeeper. He poured drinks, settled disputes, and swapped stories with beings from across the galaxy. "I gotta hand it to you, partner," Zixvok said during a rare quiet moment. "You've created something special here. A place where different species can come together, learn from each other." Jake nodded, his eyes scanning the diverse crowd. "That's the idea. Figure if we can get folks talking over a cold beer and some good music, maybe we can avoid them shooting at each other out there in the black." Suddenly, the saloon doors burst open. A tall, elegant being glided in, its body seeming to shift between solid and liquid states. The crowd fell silent, all eyes turning to the newcomer. "Great galaxies," Zixvok whispered. "That's a celestial harmonizer. I've never seen one in person." The harmonizer floated to the bar, its voice a symphony of tones. "I have traveled far, drawn by whispers of a place where the cosmic melody finds new rhythms. Are you the one they call Jake Cooper?" Jake tipped his hat, fighting to keep his voice steady. "That's me, friend. Welcome to the Stardust Saloon. What can I get you?" The being's form rippled with amusement. "I seek not refreshment, but enlightenment. Your actions have created ripples across the cosmos, Jake Cooper. You've shown that even the simplest beings can play a crucial role in the grand cosmic orchestration." Jake felt his cheeks flush. "Now hold on there. I'm just a simple cowboy trying to keep the peace. Nothing special about that." Zara stepped forward, her tendrils gently entwining with Jake's fingers. "But it is special, Jake. You have brought hope to a fractured galaxy, shown us all that our differences can be strengths when we work together." The harmonizer nodded, its form shimmering with approval. "Indeed, and it is for this reason that I have come. The Cosmic Council has deliberated, and we have decided that Earth, and more specifically, this Stardust Saloon, shall be designated as a protected neutral zone, a place where beings from across the universe can come to learn, to grow, and to find common ground." A cheer went up from the assembled crowd. Jake felt overwhelmed, the weight of this cosmic responsibility settling on his shoulders. But as he looked around at the joy and camaraderie filling the saloon, he knew he was up to the task. With Zara by his side and friends from across the galaxies at his back, there was nothing they couldn't handle. "Well, folks," Jake called out, raising his glass high. "To new beginnings, new friends, and a whole lot of cosmic adventures ahead. Welcome to the Stardust Saloon, where every night's a hoedown on the final frontier." As glasses clinked and cheers echoed, a new era dawned. The stars themselves seemed to twinkle a little brighter, as if acknowledging that here, in this unlikely Texas honky-tonk, The future of the cosmos was being written one cosmic two-step at a time. Jake Cooper, the cowboy who lassoed the stars, couldn't help but grin. Life as a galactic peacekeeper was going to be one wild ride, and he wouldn't have it any other way.